So picture this.
Hi.
Perfect little town. Imagine the intro from The Simpsons. The clouds pull away and you find this beautiful little town. Just absolutely picturesque all the way through. The inhabitants of this little town, they got a little something coming for them. It's slimy, it's gooey, it's snotty. It's the 1988 The Blob.
Yes, we have chose one of the most iconic creatures that pretty much everybody has heard of.
Yeah. Drake said he wanted a movie monster, a universal movie monster. And granted, it's not, the creature from the Black Lagoon or anything like that. But the Blob, I personally believe, deserves its own place next to Dracula and the Mummy and such. Because it's scary.
The original film of The Blob was in 1958.
Steve McQueen.
And this one done in 1988 made a amazing reproduction of the movie.
And
Fantastic job.
Prior to us sitting down and watching this, I had only seen it once when I was really young, and to be completely honest, I didn't remember even the half of it.
And I only seen the 1958 version, so when we sat down to watch this the other day,
It was pretty brand new for both of us, really.
Yeah. And
I almost felt pathetic because I was like, oh my god, here we do, movie creatures and horror movies, and I can't remember the Blob.
So you, again, have this perfect little town, very, your typical football jockeys, cheerleaders.
The whole town is just completely dead because everybody's at the football game. It's filmed in Louisiana, but it has a very Texas kind of feel.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And, you got the local cop, and you've got the, the cafe, place that everybody goes and eats at the diner.
Yeah, it is your typical perfect little town.
And then you have, and what his name is in the movie Flag, you have your outcast, person that everybody knows about. Everybody knows the troublemaker.
Yeah, played by Kevin Dillon, and I pointed out through the entire thing, his nose bothers me. He is, in my personal opinion, so unappealing to look at. He reminded me of Quasimodo.
I thought he was fun to watch. I thought he did a really good job acting.
Oh, no, he did great.
It didn't bother me. Whatever.
The acting in this wasn't bad.
Whatever nose issue you have, it didn't
I like your nose. You have a cute nose.
So anyways, you have Flag, who, is on his bike, trying to do this
typical bad boy motorcycle, leather jacket, party, what is it? Business up front, party in the back. Curls.
Oh, the curls are fantastic.
Oh, 1980s hair. Can't get enough of it.
Dude, okay, and I work at a fast food restaurant, and this guy came through the other day in a truck, and I went to take the food out to him, and he had that kind of hair where the curls were perfect, the perfect mullet thing going on.
You almost expect a handlebar mustache.
I couldn't rag on him. It was beautiful.
You can't hate on them when they get the mullet right.
It was beautiful. And I went inside. I told my boss, I said, that's probably going to be the most perfect mullet I've ever seen.
Unlike the Tiger King. What the who got drunk and decided to cut hair?
I don't know. Anyways, so you have the beginning part where, of course, you have the...
You've got your perfect little cheerleaders, which the lead is Shawnee Smith playing Meg Penny. So you got your cheerleaders, you've got your jocks,
and
you have your bad boy.
You kind of get a little background stuff, you've got the two main jocks going into the pharmacy.
Oh my gosh.
One goes to buy condoms. And
we've all got that one friend.
And the Reverend comes up and he's like, hey, I haven't seen you at Sunday Mass lately. And he's like, oh, been busy, and the pharmacy guy behind him, who he was being a complete dick to, is like, regular or ribbed, and he goes,
well, they're not for me. They're for my friend over there. He's taking this naive girl out. Turns out, pharmacist.
That girl is the pharmacist's daughter, which is great because he goes to pick her up at the house, and she's like, oh, I want to introduce you to my dad.
Which I had pointed out as we were watching. I was like, look at that. Back in the day,
The respectful thing.
When it was like, hey, let me introduce you to my parents before you take me out of this house and possibly leave me in a ditch somewhere. They walk in, Dad's reading the newspaper, very, Cosby family-like, and pulls it down with a smile, looks at him, smile goes away, and what does he say? Ribbed.
Awesome.
Because his stupid little buddy was sitting there saying, oh, it's not for me, it's for him over there.
That's great. So then you have where it jumps to the homeless guy and Flag. And Flag is around this homeless guy pretty often because they don't know each other, but he sees him around quite a bit because Flag's always out on his motorcycle doing Flag stuff. And then the homeless guy sees the meteor falling out of the sky.
So you have your basic meteorite flaming ball coming down, which the scene that follows, the person who discovers it, it reminded me of a couple of different movies.
Quite a few.
It reminded me a little bit of, if anybody has seen some of the creep shows and such like that, particularly the one done with Stephen King, the hillbilly out in the woods who goes to follow it thinking he's going to make money, touches it and the green stuff ends up all over him.
Also the curse, the one where the blob thing comes down,
yes,
and then goes into the soil.
Exactly.
It's all the same.
It seems to have that same play out. Even
which makes you think Alien as soon as that happens because it fell from the sky.
Well, and even Killer Clowns from Outer Space had that same thing happen. The old farmer guy and his dog, they leave to go and try and find this meteorite only to find the great big circus clown. It's the same kind of play out on all of them.
But again,
so you instantly think, oh, a deadly entity from space has crashed to Earth near this tiny little town. Oh, we've heard this story. It twists a little bit later, and it turns out that this isn't an alien crashing to Earth. This is a shady government cover-up.
Gone wrong.
Very wrong.
So the homeless guy comes up to said thing, meteor,
pokes it with a stick,
which anybody would do, and the blob attaches himself to said homeless man.
That's why we live longer.
And so Flag sees this and tries to go help the homeless guy. The homeless guy ends up getting hit by the jock and the girl, or what's her name?
Paul and Meg.
Meg.
Yeah.
Paul and Meg.
So Paul and Meg are leaving to go on their date. They're cruising down the road, and out in front of them runs this homeless guy, and right behind him comes Flag.
They end up taking the old man to the hospital, and the whole scene where this is where it shows the discrimination.
You see the separation of the classes start at this point when they get to the hospital. They're bringing in a homeless guy
who's been hit by a car,
and the nurse is sitting there. Well, does he have Blue Cross, HMO? Does he have insurance? And she's like, "Are you serious? Are you?" She took one look at him and immediately judged.
Yep.
And you knew right then and there they weren't going to do shit to help him. And even Flag points that out. They're not going to help him.
Well, they're not. They're not looking for explanation.
Yeah, they don't really care.
They're just gonna throw him in a room and then whatever.
And that starts to really set that tone that you pick up on throughout the entire movie, where
once the government comes in,
you start to see we're expendable. Basically, we're expendable. Just the same way that nurse saw that homeless man coming in as expendable. She didn't really care that he had been hit by a car or had a wad of snot stuck to his hand that was behaving like acid.
And this is what was crazy. So the first scene, so they take him into room 3, if I remember correctly, and Paul ends up going to get a soda for Meg and goes to check on the guy because he's just laying in a room under a blanket. Well, he sees the blanket move ever so slightly, so it catches his attention. He walks past the doctor's office, who's in there talking to another person, and he goes in there and sees that the old man has something moving on him. So he goes to the doctor.
That head turn.
He goes to the doctor and he's like, "Hey, you've got a man dying in here, yada yada." And there's no
sense of urgency.
Urgency from the
doctor.
doctor.
I'm with a patient. Dude, you got a man in the other room who is dying.
Yeah.
Dying.
And the doctor just gets up and
Like he's so inconvenient.
But then as soon as they remove the blanket and half this man's body is
corroded away,
melted away, and
his head turns and the eyes are all white and there's this huge blob something in his throat. The body, they even showed a little steam coming off of it.
They
really paid attention to the way that acid destroys stuff. It was really cool.
And this is where it just jumps right into it. And
it hopped right into it after that.
The graphics and the gore that they did throughout this movie when the blob ate something was phenomenal. Because Paul, who is a main character in the beginning, dies very shortly after the homeless guy does. In which Meg is coming in because Paul's taking forever to get a soda. Well, the blob was on the roof. And again, this is showing pay attention to the acid. Anything that touches or drips off this blob is acidic because Paul's on the phone trying to get the sheriff and juices start coming down, melting the desk. He looks up. Meg walks in and the blob is moving and Paul's stationary and his face starts getting ripped and melted off.
Have you ever
as the blob moves?
Have you ever seen people who go to pull something off their head and it brings their nose up? He had that look. It was amazing.
It was awesome.
And I feel really bad because I kind of giggled a little bit because, it's like somebody putting their face up against the glass and doing their
tights
nose
on and then they go like that.
It was hilarious.
But
it was beautifully done.
Yeah, throughout the movie, anything that got stuck inside the blob, the deterioration and how quick it happened was fantastic.
The gore in this movie was 10 out of 10.
Yeah, beautifully done.
Flipping-tastic. And it wasn't repeat.
No,
it was different each time.
Yeah. Because then you have, Flag ends up at the said cafe or restaurant or whatever, and you've got the kitchen worker, and then you've got the main waitress. Well, there's a clog in the sink.
This was his favorite scene.
You've got a clog in the sink, and the kitchen guy's like, oh, well, let me take care of it. So she goes off on her way, and he's, plunging it, and he reaches in there, and he brings out this kind of gooey substance, which... that was a fault that they had because if he touched the goo, it would have been acidic right away. However...
exactly what I had thought too.
He looks down into the sink...
little inconsistencies.
And the blob then attaches to his head and starts pulling him through this little hole. The whole body. And then they
whole body.
They start walking in and he's like getting crunched and twisted and then sunk through the sink.
And then I'm sitting there so disappointed. I'm like, oh my God, come on, at least shoot some blood out or something.
And then
shaboosh.
The entire blob comes out with
I was not disappointed.
And fluids going everywhere. It was fantastic.
That would not be the first time that I would sit there and shout out loud that I wanted something from this movie and see it happen. The police then snag up Brian Flagg.
I wish we would have been recording this.
Oh my God.
The expression on our face when this happened. Go ahead.
The police pick up Brian. They are just hell-bent on pinning the death of this jock Paul on him. Apparently it's his fault. Don't know how. So he's sitting there and they're playing good cop, bad cop with him. Well, bad cop decides to get in his face. And what do I scream out?
Lick him!
Lick him! Lick him! And what does Brian Flagg do? He licks him!
Damn. Licks him!
You dropped an F-bomb.
I did. I was excited.
Licks him. Licks him right in the face. And I'm like, yes! I have never had so much satisfaction in my whole life.
Her expression and the gratification of it said happening, it was just phenomenal.
From there on out, I didn't care what else happened.
Yeah, she was just happy that he actually licked his face.
I called stuff out twice. It was amazing. I loved it.
So then you have Flagg and Meg, who have met up at the restaurant, saying that they need to figure out what's going on, yada yada.
Did you get a vibe that there was more history between them than the story let out?
Yeah, like when they were younger.
Yeah, like he had pointed out, you haven't spoken to me in the last 3 years. So
in school or something.
But they never tapped that. They
Which
hinted.
is fine.
Yeah, and that's fine. But it does leave me kind of going,
they knew each other a little bit.
Kind of want a little drama.
Nah. So they're in the woods at some point, trying to figure out what's going on, and then this is when helicopters come in.
Yeah.
People with trucks and guns and lights. And
they open the scene up as if a UFO's coming in. It's all bright lights and noise and wind, and then all of a sudden, boom, military. Because, that's what they do.
And they just snag them up, and they come across as very friendly. Dr. Meadows is the
deceivingly friendly.
Yep, the main leader of the science cult thing that's going on.
Anybody in a hazmat suit that is that friendly should not be on your list of people to listen to.
So he's talking to him, trying to get information, telling him basically that it's a contractable
Yeah, they're saying that it's a virus,
it's a
disease,
and completely ignoring that it is a actual physical blob.
But at that time, they didn't realize it had become an actual physical blob. What had happened is they sent bacteria into space.
Yes.
And this bacteria took its vitamins and became a big boy and became this blob. So and they do show it, it says NASA on it. So when this satellite type thing comes down and crashes, the blob is then released. That was when the old man came across it, and it just continues from there.
So after getting information from Flag and Meg, they're like, all right, we're going to take you back in town, get in the truck. And this is where you start seeing this government control over citizens that you really don't have a choice.
This is where I started seeing a lot of our social issues, too. We are so conditioned by following the rules of authority. So, Meg, being the good girl, she is going to take this authority figure's word and get in the back of the van to be taken back to town.
Yeah, without question.
Without question. And she even sits there when Flag starts to question things like, wait, what? She goes, just Brian. He's questioning it. And we see that as a bad thing in society to question, which is why he's the outcast, the kid from the wrong side of the tracks.
And she even calls him a jerk for it.
Yeah. Because she's trying to follow the rules. This is where you really see that start to pop in, don't question adults. Then you see the grown-ups do it when they get back into town. Because these men are walking around with machine guns, the grown-ups are not going to question their government. Right. Children don't question adults, and adults don't question the government.
And even over the intercom, they're saying, keep calm, this is all under control, yada yada. Well, Flag on the truck ride, they end up getting forced into the truck. Flag breaks out, jumps off. She stays because she goes back to City Hall.
She wants to go back because her family's
there. Well, Flag ends up back trailing to the site where the scientists and government agents are, and is basically doing his own investigation. Comes across...
He does reconnaissance.
Yes, some recon shit. And
a little bit of Black Ops.
Ends up overhearing Dr. Meadows saying and showing that it is a U.S. government pod, and that it's not some just
he gets
random...
the, what is it, the 411?
Yeah. And basically, Dr. Meadows is saying, all the people are expendable. If they get in the way, gun them down.
And all that starts because one of his troops says, you do realize there's people there. You do realize there are people there that are living their lives.
And that's what...
This is their home. And Meadows points out, well, you think I don't know that? But we got to think of the bigger picture.
Yep.
And we got to think of the greater good. And these people are expendable.
And Flag is listening to all this. And this is where he's like, oh, I'm right. I need to now go tell people.
Yes. He suddenly grows this. He has that whole, I only look out for me kind of thing. Until that moment when it's like, oh, crap.
There's a bunch of people involved, not just me now.
Exactly.
And this is when the movie starts getting really good.
It gets really good at this point.
Then you have mass killings from the Blob coming up. So, little brother of Meg's and one of his little fellow companions that always has a headset in decide to sneak out to the movie theater to watch some basically
a cheesy horror
Jason
movie
with a hedge trimmer. Oh, and it's so funny.
I was laughing on the inside
because the guy's like, hockey season's or it's not hockey season. That was over months ago. And it's like just dumb shit like
It
that.
was so bad. But these kids, they sneak out to go see an adult movie, a rated R movie.
And the Blob has made it to the theater. And as the Blob eats people, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
And we had discussed the digestion thing because it was on the old man's hand for quite some time.
Yes.
But by the time it got to Paul, it digested him pretty quickly, and it seemed to digest faster and faster
as it got bigger
the
and bigger.
larger it got.
Absolutely.
I thought that was pretty neat. I was like, I hadn't really thought of that at first.
And it gets to the point where as the Blob's moving, it's just going out and using its tentacles to grab
this is
and
mine, and
suck
that is
people
mine,
in.
and this is mine, and that is mine.
Awesome. So then you get to where they basically, you end up in the sewer system. We're fast forwarding a little bit because there's a bunch of dialogue in between on this part from the movie theater to the system.
It attacks the movie theater, causes mass killing within the movie theater, lots of chaos. Meg, her brother, and his little friend make it down into the sewer system while they're trying to run from said Blob. This is where the government comes back in again. They have figured out the Blob is down in the sewer system and has sent a small crew of people down there to go and assess the situation.
Now, once the government people down there have come across this Blob and got annihilated, they're like, oh shit, we can't do anything about this thing. They go to escape with Meg and Flag, and Dr. Meadows, who sees that it's Flag down there, orders the manhole to be shut, sealed, locked them in.
They push a van over the top of the manhole.
Which I thought was clever.
And lock them down. I had wondered,
clever.
Just close it up. I was waiting for them to come out with welding torches and stuff to weld it shut. No, they parked a vehicle over the top of it so that they could not push it open.
And even one of Dr. Meadows'
that's my men
guys
down there.
said, it's like, and he's like, I don't care. I gave you an order. And that's also going in part where even the lower ends of the government people were
shit
expendable.
rolls downhill.
Exactly. So then you have...
Oh my goodness. One of the guys left down there in his little hazmat suit has a big boom boom.
It's a stick... It's essentially like a wannabe rocket launcher that's a one handheld type
And we
thing.
had some issues with this scene, and we did complain audibly about this.
Yes. Because the tunnelway up the steps, or the ladder, to get to the manhole, there's
It's like a tube.
Yeah. So
Penis
Flag
pillar.
reaches in there, launches this rocket, explodes everything on top, nothing happens underneath, and the manhole is just perfectly
Now, we
intact.
know that had they done that, it would have blown up that entire area. It would have blown up the street. It would have caved it in, and they weren't going anywhere.
Yeah, but no, it was just the truck on top, which, I mean, it's okay.
There would have been some
the
backdraft, too.
It's the 80s, and I get it, but...
we'll ignore it this time.
So then you have now Flag basically telling all the citizens that this is all a bunch of bullshit. The government is
You've got your
saying-
basic Mexican standoff.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a gun.
And then this is where the Blob comes out
Yep.
and just...
The ground begins to rumble and shake, and all of a sudden the blob just explodes.
Huge, because they tried to use explosives to take him out.
Which is similar to the goo from Ghostbusters.
And also evolution.
Yes, and evolution. Like the more angry you were with this goo in Ghostbusters, the bigger and angrier it got. But when you were nice to it, it went away.
Napalm. Lots of napalm.
Napalm.
So
Napalm.
throughout the little bits with Flag and the Blob, there's little hints that they come across on what the Blob is weak against.
Yes,
And
they
it's
discover it's
cold.
Yes.
It's very temperature sensitive. So, as everybody's stuck in City Hall and the Blob is attacking City Hall, Flag goes and finds the snowmaker.
There's
the
Snowmaker
Snowmaster.
because their town is a ski town.
So he takes the truck, rams it into the Blob, which is hilarious because the Blob basically essentially just knocks it over. Well, then you have Meg that finds one of the satchels, the explosive, bombs, sets the detonator on the truck that has all the cold equipment on it, goes to leap of faith off the truck, and has her foot caught on a hose and face plants.
First, right into the side of the tanker,
Oh my
just
gosh.
dangling there. Oh
I
my god.
laughed so hard.
We lost it. We laughed so hard.
So hard.
I about died.
Explosion goes off. Blob is then destroyed through the cold explosion.
And it turns it into these beautiful little crystals. And every now and again, you see this glimmer of light just kind of reflect through. And what I like is that they pointed out, hey, somebody needs to get some stuff down here so we can hurry and shovel this and get it to a freezer before dawn when this starts to thaw. Somebody thought about that. And it's those little tidbits that go in that I really, really like.
Makes it such a great movie.
That little attention to detail.
And I'm personally going to leave out the very end.
I don't want to mention the very end.
The very end. We're not going to mention it.
I don't want to mention it.
However, for me, this movie is a classic. It had humor. It had the gore that was just
action.
Awesome. It was awesome for its time.
Great. It is a wonderful creature feature.
It is a 5 out of 5 for me.
5 out of 5 right here, too. And I got to say one last tidbit. I saw 2 connections to a Stephen King book.
Oh, really?
Miss Shawnee Smith, who played Meg Penny, she also
that's
played
right.
in the movie The Stand.
That's right.
She was the crazy chick. And the bad guy's name in The Stand was Flag. Kevin Dillon played Brian Flagg. It's a stretch, but I saw it there.
Now, I left this out and I didn't talk about it throughout the entire time because it wasn't my favorite part, but I definitely was like, oh my god, when it happened. However, your favorite part was the phone booth.
The phone booth.
I left that out, didn't want to talk about it till the very end. Did you want to tell them about the phone booth?
So the waitress from the diner has escaped the diner after said guy has been pulled into sink.
Badass way, too. She just breaks out through the window.
Oh,
like
yeah,
she
she blows. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, man, she Mad Maxed it. She gets into the phone booth. Yes, these things used to exist. You know, where you slid the door. She's in there trying to make a call. The Blob is coming over the top of it. She's trying to find the sheriff. The sheriff's there, smeared up against the side of the glass, and his eyes are still moving. Half his face is gone. He's all melty. It is amazing. I love it.
And then the pure weight of the Blob.
Scoosh.
And you watch from the inside of the phone booth it happen and just consume her.
And that was something he kept pointing out through the whole movie that he liked. When the creature took over solid spaces, it filled it like a liquid, like a goo.
Yes, and it showed weight. Like when it wasn't gooey, it was trying to do its like if it had feet.
When it smacked down and it came back up and the guy was flat.
Yeah, it had weight to it. I thought it was great. Again, this is my 5 out of 5 star for Universal Monster, The Blob 1988. Very well done.
Love it. I will definitely watch that again. I'm so glad we own that.
Thank you guys so very much. Appreciate it.
Every single one of you have very pleasant nightmares.